Hello and welcome to Kit's Crochet Tutorials. I am Kit and I am here to show you the basics of crochet. My crochet videos will be duplicated, one from the right-handed side and one from the left-handed side. They will be identical because I just use the fancy editing software to give the left-handed perspective. So hopefully this is helpful. I've already posted a video on the basics of making a slip knot and how to hold your yarn and single chain stitches. This is going to be single crochet. In the future, I will also be uploading some videos talking about the different types of yarn, different types of hooks, and the types of hooks that you can see and what they're used for so that you don't accidentally buy the wrong thing. And further tutorials on other crochet basics such as half double crochet and double crochet and treble crochet. And eventually I'd like to branch into some tutorials on some common patterns and free patterns that you might find online that are popular for making really cool fun stuff. Now, I don't do stuffed animals or amigurumiki or however you say that. I tend to stick to wearables and blankets and things like that. So, and purses and bags, and I'll eventually maybe upload some of those too. But for now, we're going to stick to the most basic of basics. And so let's get started. So I have 5mm crochet hook. You can use whatever you prefer. Just make sure that the crochet hook is the right type of crochet hook for the yarn you're using. When you get yarn on the label, the yarn will tell you exactly what the recommended hook size it is for. So for example, this is a Karen's Skinny Cake yarn, and you'll see a crochet label on it like this. This is a weight 3 lightweight yarn. I'll have a more in-depth video later regarding what that means, but it shows two different squares next to it. One that has to do with if you're knitting and one if you're doing crochet. They recommend a 4mm hook for this particular yarn. It's not the yarn in the video, but just to show you how you can tell what size hook you should at minimum be using. 4mm, or also known as a USG size hook, or a size 6 hook. So I'm using a worsted weight 4, which is one of the most common types of yarn. Generally recommended to use a 5mm to 6mm or 6.5mm hook. So let's get started. In my last video, I covered how to make a slip knot and how to do the chain stitch, so I'm going to move through this part rather quickly. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make your slip knot. I take my yarn and I loop it over so that the tail is right here. I do try to have about 5-6 inches of a tail for weaving in, and so right now you should see the tail side on top and the part connected to your ball of yarn or skein on this side. And then what I do is I flip it so that the tail is here on the bottom and the part attached to the skein is now on top. I pull that behind. You can use your finger or you can insert your hook, pull up the loop, and there you have your slip knot. You don't want it overly tight. If it's too tight, it can make it hard to work with, and you're going to want to make sure it slides easily up and down the neck of your crochet hook or shaft, whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a chain of 10. once this gets started, this will actually make 9 single crochets. If you want an even set of no single crochet stitches itself, you would have to do an odd number of stitches to make that work, but we're going to just make it easy, and I'm going to chain 10, which will be 9 single crochets. So I'm going to start off with my chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so I have 10 stitches on my hook. Let me zoom in a bit for you here. So that's 10 stitches, and you should see 10 stitches on your hook. Remember, the loop here that's attached to your hook does not count. So when you count the V's, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And of course, the little slip knot does not count. So that's 10 chains. Now, there's 2 ways you can start your first row. You may see some people tell you to work in these back loops, which is like this little raised bump right here. I don't recommend that when you're just getting started. They can be hard to see, and it can be hard to tell what you've worked into and hard to keep your stitch count going. So while you're still learning, you want to work in the top of the V's. Okay, the only benefit for working in these things is like if you're making a blanket or a scarf or whatever, you have a nice clean edge with the V's. All right, so let's get started. Not counting the loop on your hook, to make a single crochet, you're going to count 2 stitches. All right, so 1 and then 2. And you're going to take your hook, and in that second stitch from the hook, not this one, but this one, you're going to insert your hook in that first loop, and you're going to yarn over and grab your yarn and pull up a loop where you have 2 stitches on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over again and pull through those 2 loops. Okay, and that makes your first single crochet. And it's okay, you'll see it's kind of big and gappy right there. Don't worry about that, but you do not want to work into that one. Your next stitch you work into is going to be this one right here, not the large gappy one. Okay, so to make our second single crochet stitch, we're going to insert into the top of the loop right there and yarn over and pull through the loop. So you have 2 loops on your hook again. You're going to yarn over and pull through 2 again. Okay, so now you've made 2 single crochets. Let me adjust this a little bit better. Okay, so you have 2 single crochets. Now let's do that again. So you have your V, there's your top loop, your bottom loop. You're going to insert your hook in that top loop. Okay, and you're going to grab your yarn and pull through that loop like that. You have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to pull through 2. A little fuzzy. I have cats and dogs, so sorry if you see hair. It's almost inescapable to stop getting hair on your project. So now we have 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to demonstrate that real slowly again one more time. You're going to not go in the big gap. You're going to go into this stitch right here through this loop right here. Insert your hook. Go under your yarn. Grab it. Pull it through the loop. So you have 2 loops on your stitch or on your hook. You're going to pull through those 2 loops to make your single crochet. All right, and so you're going to continue that until you get to the end. And I'm going to stop right before that last stitch so that you can see and I can explain something that you might encounter, which is completely normal. Now, when people are learning to crochet, they tend to do one of two things. They tend to either overpull and make everything way too tight, or make everything way too loose. So if you are a tight crocheter, you may find it's kind of hard to work into this last stitch. You do not work into the knot. You want to work into that V before the knot. If you work into the knot, you're going to undo your work, okay? So you're going to insert your hook into that top loop, pull through with your yarn. So you have 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. If you did it longer than 10, and you can kind of see it here, you're going to find that it's curved slightly. This is normal. My starting chain was pretty tight because I'm a tight crocheter. So sometimes what I'll have to do is when I'm working on specific patterns and projects, you may find that you need to go up a hook size. So right, this is a 5mm. If I was working a specific pattern that was calling for a specific gauge, I may have to actually go up to a 5.5 or a 6mm hook just for the chain, and then switch back down to this one because of how tight I tend to crochet. And it's okay. You can see it may curl a little bit. That is also normal. It will flatten out as your project grows outward. So don't worry about any curling unless it's like this, where it's like a curly crew. If your crochet looks like this on your single crochet, you've crocheted it way too tight and you need to undo it and loosen up your tension because you don't want it twisting that much. It should be generally kind of flexible. All right, so let's verify our stitch count. Make sure we have 9 stitches. So starting from where we went into the first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, and you don't count that on there. All right, so let's go to the second row. And yes, I said second row. Your chain, your foundation chain, never counts as your first row. So what I just did into the foundation chain, that is row 1. Okay, so you don't count your foundation chain. This part right here that we just worked up in single crochet is our row 1. So we're going to go to row 2. Now, if you're trying to interpret patterns, you may see that patterns will tell you to turn your work and then chain. I don't do that. Most tutorials I've seen by others, they don't tend to do that either. So what I do is I go ahead and I make my turning chain. So I'm going to go under and chain 1. So that's all you have to do to go to your next row for single crochet is chain 1. Now we turn our work. Okay. Now this is where it can get a little hinky. It's very easy to drop that very last stitch. So I'm going to show you how you can make sure you don't do that. It's not as hard to miss the stitch in single crochet as it is in double and half double crochet. But if you're not careful, you can use something called a stitch marker to mark that last stitch right there so that you don't lose it, so that you make sure you work into it. But one of the things that I know are a common mistake when people are first learning to crochet is when they go to make their next row, they want to work into the top of the V just like we did when we were working in our foundation chain. You actually don't want to do that. When you do that, that's called back loop single crochet. We are not working into the back loop. That's a specialty stitch only used in specific circumstances, or they may just go up through the front of the V, and that's front loop single crochet. Again, a specialty stitch, and you should only do that if a pattern specifically calls for it. So what you want to do is kind of turn to the edge, and you'll see here's where the loop is on the hook. You've got this little loop right there where we made our first chain, and then you see this little valley right here. You're going to insert your hook through the valley, making sure you go under the V. So you should see like that. All right, and then you're gonna grab your yarn and pull up your loop and pull through 2, okay? Now, that's kind of loose because I pulled on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten that down because you do want your stitches to be consistent. All right, so let's do that again. We're gonna go in the little valley so that when you look at the top, you see the V and your hook goes under the V. And I'm gonna grab my yarn by yarning under, grab the yarn, pull up the loop, and pull through 2. All right. So look for that little valley so that you make sure that you're going under the V. Grab your yarn and pull up your loop and pull through 2 loops. Okay. And we're going to do that again. Go under the V, pull up a loop, and pull through 2 loops. Okay. Go under your V, and pull through 2 loops. All right, so we're going to continue this. Look for your little valley, stick your hook in, make sure you've got a V on top of that hook, grab your yarn and pull up a loop, and then pull through 2 loops to complete the single crochet. So as you can see, I'm approaching the end of the row, and you kind of see how it makes a little point right there. Okay, that's normal. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you make sure you grab that stitch, and it'll make a nice straight edge. All right, so we're going to go one more time. We're going to insert the hook, grab, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops. And then we're going to insert that hook, pull up our loop, and pull through 2 loops, okay? Now, we're at the end, and this is kind of tight, especially if you're a tight crocheter, and a lot of people in the very beginning are. You may find it's a little bit difficult to insert the hook through it. So just very carefully work your hook through, grab that yarn, and then we're going to pull up to finish the row. All right, and so you should have a nice little 2 rows of single crochet. Okay, now let's start our next row. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to go right there in that first stitch, not right here, but right here. Insert our hook, pull up that loop, and pull through 2 loops. And go into the little valley, grab that yarn, pull through 2 loops, insert into the valley, grab the yarn, and pull through 2 loops. Insert the valley, grab that yarn and pull through 2. And then we're going to go into the valley, pull up a loop, and pull through 2 loops. And we're going to grab and pull through 2. Grab and pull through 2. Insert, grab and pull through 2. And then we're at that end. You'll see a little ridge right there. That's normal. It may be tight. Insert the hook through and pull through 2. And once you've done that, you can continue on. Make it as long as you want. You can do 20. Just remember that if you chain 10, you'll have 9 single crochets. If you chain 20, you'll have 19. So if you want an even number of stitches, you would need to chain 11, 21, and so on for the single crochet stitch, because that's kind of how that happens. So there you go. That is single crochet. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned something, and please like and follow my page. You can find me both on Facebook and on TikTok and on YouTube, and you have a very good day.